Some battles are fought over territory, others over faith, a few for glory. But this one was fought over schnapps and shadows and fear. In the autumn of 1788, deep in the wilds of Eastern Europe, the mighty Austrian army marched to face the Ottoman Empire. 30,000 men, cannons, cavalry, drummers and chaplains, engineers and surgeons. They carried the banners of emperors. They wore the medals of veterans. And by dawn, they would be dead, scattered, or running from phantoms. The enemy never arrived, but the Austrians slaughtered each other all the same. A misunderstanding became a massacre. An army devoured itself. And you were there. You remember the singing, the distant gunshot, the screaming in a dozen languages, the flare of cannon fire that no one ordered. You remember your hand on the musket, and not knowing who it was pointed at. This is the night history tried to forget. The Battle of Karansebes. You've been marching for 3 days. Mud to the ankles. Bugs in the beard. No fire. No song. No sign of the enemy. You are a hussar in the Austrian Imperial Army, and this is supposed to be a war. But so far, it's just boots, blisters, and boredom. They say the Ottomans are out there, somewhere east, past the forests, past the fog. But scouts have seen nothing. The army is restless. 30,000 men strong. Germans, Hungarians, Croats, Wallachians, Serbs. All speaking in tongues. All pretending to follow the same orders. You've seen officers scream, "Hold fire!" and get a bullet through the neck for it. Not malice, just misunderstanding. Tonight, you're part of the advance guard. 2,000 cavalry sent ahead to secure the banks of the Timish River near a town called Karansebes. You don't know the name, but you'll remember it forever. The land flattens near the river. Trees give way to open scrub. You set up a perimeter. Pitch no tents. Just waiting, watching. A sergeant tosses you a hunk of black bread. "Eat it, or feed it to the horse," he says. Then, as the last red streaks vanish from the sky, voices, laughter, tinkling bells, gypsy traders, emerging from the brush with carts and mules. They come from nowhere, as they always do, always smelling like smoke and fortune, and schnapps. You trade 2 buttons for a flask. Another soldier trades his socks. By the time the officers notice, a circle of riders is laughing around the fire, bottles passing hand to hand. A violin appears. Someone starts to sing. You forget why you were nervous. The firelight dances. Your muscles ache less. You drink. And behind the trees, the mist grows thicker. You don't remember falling asleep. Just the warmth of the schnapps, the hum of the violin, and the fire licking your eyelids shut. But something wakes you. Not a sound, a feeling. The fire's still burning low. The bottle near your boot is empty. Your horse is snorting, restless. Then you hear it. A snap, a rustle, a whisper in the dark brush along the riverbank. You grab your musket. Your voice breaks the silence. "Weda?" "Halt!" No answer. You strain your eyes. Shapes move in the fog. Could be trees. Could be men. Another voice calls out. Different tongue. Romanian maybe. Then a shout. Then a shot. Panic explodes like a cannon. "The Turks! The Turks!" Men scramble to their feet. Some run for their horses. Others shoot at the shadows. One rider gallops off full speed, screaming nonsense. The rest follow. You mount your horse. Half because you're ordered, half because you don't want to be trampled. Cavalry bolts from the riverbank, hooves slamming against the wet grass. Riders yell behind them. A stampede in the dark. Back at the main camp, the infantry hears the noise. Galloping horses, screams in foreign languages, musket fire in the dark. They panic. They're flanking us. The Ottomans are here. Without confirmation, they form ranks and open fire. You're in the middle, caught between terrified riders and trigger-happy infantry. A man beside you takes a musket ball to the throat. He falls off his horse like a dropped sack of meat. No one checks him. No one slows. Ahead, someone yells to hold fire, but it's in German. The Hungarian line doesn't understand. They hear shouting and fire back. Cannons go off. A blast rips through the trees, sending splinters flying. Another fires, aiming into the cavalry charge. The wagons catch fire. A mule screams. The schnapps barrels ignite. You can't see 5 feet ahead. The night has become smoke and screams and madness. And somewhere in that chaos, someone yells again, "The Turks are inside the camp." You hear steel being drawn, and you're not sure if the man behind you is an ally or a ghost. You lose your horse in the smoke. It rears at a cannon blast and vanishes into the fog. You stumble through wet grass and corpses. Half the camp is on fire. Tents collapse under their own burning cloth. Barrels explode like thunder. You trip over a man with no leg. He screams something in Serbian. You don't know the words, but the sound is universal. Up ahead, officers try to rally their men. Hold fire. Form ranks. Hold fire. But no one's listening. They're dead. Or running. Or firing wildly at silhouettes. Someone in the artillery crew loads grape shot. No orders. Just instinct. The blast tears into a line of infantrymen. Austrian infantrymen. Blood hits your cheek. It's warm. You don't know whose it is. Now the wagons are moving. Stampeding horses, maddened by noise and smoke. A supply cart crashes into a surgeon's tent. You hear a scream and the snapping of bone. You smell alcohol and guts. Then, cavalry reinforcements arrive. Hungarians. They see fire. They hear shouting. They assume the Ottomans have breached the lines. They charge. Through their own men. The sound is unholy. Steel meeting flesh. Horses slamming into soldiers like hammer blows. A young conscript begs them to stop. He's trampled before the words leave his mouth. You crawl under a wagon. It offers no real cover. But it's something. From here, you watch 2 units bayonet each other over a misunderstanding. Both swear they're fighting Turks. Neither notice they're wearing the same insignia. A cannon misfires and explodes. Half the crew dies instantly. The others scream until they don't. The music is gone. The schnapps is gone. The songs are replaced by moaning. And somewhere, over all of it, an officer still yells, "Hold fire! For the love of God, hold fire!" But the order is as useless as prayer. You press your palms to your ears and wait for the sun and wonder if you'll live to see it. It comes slowly, like smoke lifting after a funeral pyre. The dawn, and with it, silence. Not peace. Just the absence of screaming. The fires still crackle, but lower now. You sit against a wheel, your musket across your lap, fingers locked too tightly to move. Around you, shapes lie still in the mud. Men. mules. Parts of both. You breathe, and the air tastes like burnt linen and iron. A drummer boy sits nearby, legs crossed, staring at nothing. He hums a song you don't know. His drum is crushed under a wagon axle. He doesn't seem to notice. A priest moves between the bodies, whispering Latin rites. No one responds. He sprinkles water on a dead man with no face. You try to count the dead, but the numbers blur. One regiment's banner lies in the mud, pierced by 7 bayonets. An officer with no legs is screaming orders at no one. Another paces in a circle, muttering, "I thought they were Ottomans. I thought they were Ottomans." A general's horse, beautifully saddled, walks through camp riderless. The general, you later learn, was shot by his own sentries. The camp surgeon is overwhelmed. He ties tourniquets with his teeth. He screams at his assistants. One of them collapses from exhaustion. No one picks him up. And what do you have? Smoke. Shattered ranks. Ammunition wasted. Horses dead. Commanders drunk, or bleeding, or disappeared. The army looks to someone, anyone, for orders. But the only clear voice is a captain who mutters, "God save us, we killed ourselves." And you sit there, still alive, but unsure what side you're on. They say war is chaos, but chaos has patterns, rules. Even a storm obeys gravity. What happened at Karansebes? There was no gravity, just smoke, and screaming, and silence. The sun is higher now. You walk the scorched camp like a ghost among ruins. Boots crunch through ash. Canvas flaps in the breeze. Everywhere, the stench of blood and singed hair and unwashed men. Flies swarm, not just over the corpses, but over the living too. Wounded men lie where they fell, eyes shut, teeth clenched. Some whisper prayers in tongues you don't understand. Some weep openly. Others stare upward, as if expecting judgment. No drums, no horns, no orders. Just birds, finally returning. A priest moves between the bodies, muttering Latin last rites. He steps over the dead with practiced ease. You've seen him before, after skirmishes, but never like this. You pass 2 officers screaming at each other, red-faced, arms flailing. One speaks German, the other Hungarian. Neither understands the other. Both believe the other is to blame. A lieutenant paces nearby with an unloaded pistol. He's repeating the same phrase to himself. "I saw the flash. I fired first. I saw the flash. I fired first." His hands won't stop shaking. Farther off, a general's body lies draped over a supply crate. Stiff, face down in his own maps. Blood spreads through the parchment rivers and mountains. You don't know his name. You salute anyway. A supply wagon rolls past, its wheels caked in blood. The corpses inside are wrapped in tarpaulin and bound with twine. Each thump as it hits a rut makes your stomach turn. You pause beside what used to be the artillery battery. Twisted iron, blown out barrels, charred boots with nothing above them. There's no meeting, no plan, no vengeance, just rot, and the knowledge that you are now a survivor of a battle no one will believe. Because the enemy never came, and the army destroyed itself anyway. Word spreads like mold, slow, creeping, inevitable. The Turks are coming. This time, it's not rumour. A rider brought confirmation from a forward post. Real scouts, real sightings. Banners in the east. Ottoman cavalry. Marching in strength. But there are no horns. No drums of readiness. No tightening of lines. Because there are no lines. You stand with a dozen others, some from your regiment, some not. One has a broken sabre. One clutches a pistol with no powder. One hasn't stopped shaking since sunrise. A junior officer approaches, too young to shave. He tries to speak, his voice cracks. He holds a crumpled map, but no one follows his orders. You don't even hear what he says. His voice is too small for the noise in your head. The army isn't defeated. It's dissolved. Fear did what cannon never could. It made men forget who they were, forget the direction of enemy lines, forget which hand held their flag. A cluster of grenadiers mutter about desertion. They speak Polish or Slovak or something you don't know, but you understand the tone. They're not marching east. They're marching home. You consider it. The road west. Back toward Vienna. Back toward family, or at least walls. But the guilt weighs heavier than your musket. You're not sure who you shot last night, but you know you shot someone. And they spoke your language. Or tried to. On the hilltop, a cannon crew finally stirs. One man begins loading. The rest stare into the fog. No target yet, but they want to be ready this time. Too late. A horn. Far off. Then hooves. Then steel. Turkish cavalry. Not rumour. Not smoke. Real. Ordered. Alive. They appear on the ridge like ghosts summoned by guilt. And you, musket in hand, try to raise it. But your arms feel like stone. Your powder's wet. Your heart is louder than the horn. This is the battle you came to fight. And you've already lost it. Because the worst damage was done in the dark. By your own hand. And by those you trusted. The enemy watches. And waits. And advances on an army already defeated by itself. They didn't fight. Not really. When the Ottomans came, marching, methodical, unhurried, the Austrians fired a few desperate volleys. 1 or 2 cannons discharged, more from reflex than command. But the line never held. There was no line to hold. Men fled into the woods. Some dropped their weapons. Some dropped to their knees. You stood frozen, musket slack in your hands, waiting for a sword, or a bullet, or a mercy. But it never came. The Ottomans didn't press. They saw the bodies, the smoke, the ruined discipline, and they marched around it, like stepping over a corpse that had already decayed. No victory, no conquest, just contempt. By the time new orders arrived, it was over. What was left of the command structure blamed the weather, the terrain, the enemy's clever trick. But the truth bled through in whispers. That it wasn't the Turks. It was fear, language, liquor, firelight in the mist, and men. Too many men who had never looked their own terror in the face. You marched again. Eventually, east, then west, then home. The war dragged on, but your part was finished. You were never trusted with a rifle again. They gave you shovels and told you not to speak. And so you buried others, and yourself, a little more with each shallow grave. They never built a monument. Not for you. Not for the 1,000 dead. Not for the officers who screamed orders into the void, or the soldiers who died speaking the wrong language. The Austrian Empire kept it quiet, filed it away, called it a misfire, a misunderstanding, a night exercise gone wrong, a footnote in a war they lost anyway. You survived, but the man you were didn't. You were trained to fight Turks. Instead, You fought phantoms. Your brothers. Your own fear. You still remember the sound of musket fire cracking in the dark. Not knowing who fired, not knowing who died. Just the recoil, and the silence that followed. No one talks about Karansebes, even among veterans, especially among veterans. Years later, in some tavern outside Vienna, you hear someone joke. Remember the battle where the Austrians defeated themselves? Laughter follows. You don't laugh. You just leave your drink half full and step into the cold. Because it wasn't funny. Not to you. Not to the boy with no face in the river. Not to the drummer who never played again. Not to the hussar whose horse ran straight into a cannon blast. War is a joke. Only history gets to tell. And you are its punchline. There was no enemy that night. Just schnapps, shadows, and men who forgot who they were until it was too late. History remembers the names of great victories. It carves them into marble. It sings them in anthems. But Karansebes was buried. Because it wasn't a battle. It was a breakdown. An empire tore itself apart. In the dark. Alone. Unafraid of the enemy. Terrified of itself. If this story struck something in you, subscribe. There are more. Stories hidden between the lines of textbooks. Moments the world forgot, but someone lived through. This has been another immersive journey into the strange, the tragic, and the true. Crafted by AI. Powered by history. Told by you.